Hey, Pretty Girl Club. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about how to emotionally detach from men. The reason that I talk about decentering men on this channel is because a lot of the suffering that we as women experience, you guys have heard me talk about humbling tactics or people trying to be combative against us because of our racial background, being mixed race black women and stuff like that. A lot of that jealousy and a lot of that vitriol is because those women are actually male centered. And so the more male centered you are, the more jealous you're going to be of other women because you're going to be threatened by other women being able to take your man or take his attention. And a lot of women are male centered because they like the lifestyle that a man can give them. And so when they see another woman's beauty or they see something that makes another woman special, it makes her feel threatened because she feels like, well, that woman has a higher chance of living a better life than me. So it's impossible to talk about things like pretty privilege or pretty girl problems without discussing decentering men because once you begin to decenter them, about 90% of your insecurities about your physical appearance will go away. Who created colorism? Men. Who created racism? Men. Who created the beauty hierarchy? Men. Who created Hollywood's beauty standards and Hollywood in general? Men. So this is why it's very important to stop centering your life and your self-esteem around them. But I want to talk about how to begin emotionally detaching from them because one thing that I used to do is I used to waste a lot of my time thinking about men. So that's why I say we have to emotionally detach from them because sometimes it's not even that you're physically around this guy or spending time with him. It's the fact that you are thinking about him when he's not around. It's the fact that, you have a crush at work and even when you're not at work, when you're supposed to be enjoying your life outside of work, you're sitting at home thinking about him, wondering what he's thinking about, wondering what he's doing, wondering if he's going to see you in the office tomorrow, wondering when he's going to ask you on a date. And what a lot of people don't realize is that time is money and how you spend your time determines how your life turns out. I told you guys about how my first 2 years on YouTube, I was only making about one video per month, and that's because I was more male centered. I had no idea that I had the capacity to make 75 to 90 videos per month. I had no idea that I had that level of work ethic. And it wasn't until I stopped wasting my time thinking about a guy or strategizing to get a guy or trying to figure out how to freestyle, where to freestyle. It wasn't until I cleared out my actual schedule and cleared out my mind that I realized how much money I could make from investing that time in literally building myself up. So when I was a little bit more male centered, let's say I was like casually dating or something, or trying to like get a boyfriend, or I was like having a crush on a guy at work or something. So I would be outside of work, planning what I'm gonna wear, trying to style my hair, like doing the pin curls and stuff. You know how like you kind of have to do your hair the night before so that it could set. I was over here like, okay, I have a special meeting tomorrow. Let me try to do these pin curls in my hair. Let me try to like wash it and style it so that it looks extra cute so that I can get this guy's attention, because he's like a CFO. So I definitely want him to notice me because, hey, he has money and that's what I want. He meets my standards and I can live this hypergamous dream lifestyle. So I remember spending hours every single week, like trying to style my hair a certain way. I was actually spending more money because I was going on Amazon trying to look up different like cute dresses that I could wear at work so that I could hopefully get this accounting guy's attention. And then I remember kind of practicing what I wanted to say in the meeting or like what I wanted to talk about. I remember planning out how I was going to organize my cubicle to make sure that I had some extra makeup in my drawer, make sure that I had some extra lash glue in there just in case my lashes fell off at work, making sure that I had my curl cream, like my gel and stuff, just in case any of my hair started sticking up, making sure that the frizz wasn't there, and then also wanting to bring healthy lunches so that I'm not bloated because I need my stomach to look as flat as possible in my dresses. So all of that effort that I was putting into getting a certain guy's attention, by the way, it actually did work. So that guy, he did end up asking me on a date. And then it turned out that he was a porn addict. He was a super controlling Baptist Christian guy. He definitely had the Madonna whore complex. So all of that initial time that I had spent trying to get chosen by this particular guy, all of that time could have been spent on creating content, on actually making money. All of that time could have been spent on coming up with business ideas. Another example that I have is when I was in a relationship with a guy who was paying my bills or whatever, or he was like helping me a lot financially. As soon as that relationship ended, all of my time was freed up. So much so to the point where I was able to get a second, like contracted type of job where you can work like whenever you want. I literally was able to make an additional $400 within one weekend of not having that guy in my life because time is money. So when I was not spending all of my time focusing on a guy or kind of arguing back and forth with a guy, that was another thing I used to spend a lot of time doing in relationships was arguing with that guy, trying to figure out how to play all of these emotionally manipulative games. You know how women will be like, oh, if that guy starts looking at other girls, you need to start trying to look at guys who are richer or like do the same thing to him and then try to make him feel mad. So once I stopped centering men and I stopped playing all of these emotionally manipulative tit for tat games, I was no longer using my thought energy to think of ways to get revenge on a guy. I wasn't wasting my time thinking about that. I wasn't wasting my time thinking about the perfect comeback for this guy and like, oh, I'm really going to get him this time because next time he does that, this is what I'm going to say. So let me rehearse my paragraph long rebuttal to how I can say that thing to him next time and get him to finally see it from my point of view. I stopped thinking about those things and it began to help me to, number one, realize how many talents I actually have outside of scheming to get in a relationship or scheming to get into these, hypergamous relationships or scheming to get picked by a man. But I remember when I was single, there was one point where I was going on 4 dates per week. And this is because, at that time I wanted to do casual dating because I liked doing it at the time or whatever. But looking back, going on 4 dates a week, so let's say each date lasts about 2 hours. So 2 times 4, that's 8. So I'm spending 8 hours per week on the date with a guy, probably spending an additional 8 hours per week getting ready, like doing my makeup, doing my hair, getting my nails and toes done, picking out my outfits. So that's about 16 hours per week right there. What could you be doing within those 16 hours that could cause you to make more money? Because one thing that I realized, like the reason that I decided that I don't think I want to do that again is because I remember going on dates with this one particular guy. He took me on maybe 5 or 6 dates. And this guy, on the outside, he met the standards, quote unquote, for like, kind of living that hypergamous lifestyle. By the way, this is no shade to hypergamy channels or anything like that, because I support hypergamy as opposed to 50-50 and like hypogamy. But I remember this guy that I was dating at the time, he was wealthy, he was white. So for all of those divestors that are like obsessed with like dating a guy who's non-black or whatever, this guy, he happened to be white. This guy also happened to have a kid. So I remember as I was going on these dates with him, he was taking me to these different places and stuff. I remember in the back of my mind, knowing that I did not want to be his girlfriend, knowing that I didn't want to like marry him and be a stepmom, but I was participating in these dates because I liked the lifestyle of being taken out, going ice skating or going to these nice breakfast and brunch spots and going to get crepes and stuff and like going downtown and kind of walking around at night. So it was the lifestyle that I was actually wanting as opposed to him personally. And that was when I realized that the soft life for me did not have to revolve around a man, because once I realized that, I was like, wait a minute, I'm only here because I like doing these activities. All I have to do is spend my own money to go to the restaurants I want to go to hang out downtown. If I spend my own money to do these things on my own, then I don't have to deal with spending 2 hours with a guy that I don't actually like, trying to pretend that I'm so interested in him, waiting for this date to be over because I don't really like talking about these particular topics with him. So I realized that I could actually have the soft life and remove the middleman, which was that particular guy, and then I wouldn't have to deal with the cognitive dissonance of pretending that I like this guy when I don't, pretending that I want to hear him ramble on and on about politics when I don't, pretending that I like his personality when I don't. You guys hear me talk a lot on this channel about cognitive dissonance, and how cognitive dissonance is actually the cause of a lot of mental illnesses. It's the cause of anxiety. By the way, cognitive dissonance means you say one thing, but you actually believe something else. Cognitive dissonance is like when you're hiding certain parts of yourself in order to maintain a particular image. So I didn't like having to lie to myself or lie to him or pretend that I'm something I'm not, and then deal with constant cognitive dissonance, constant pretending, constant hoping that he doesn't catch me and hoping that he doesn't catch the fact that I'm not really that into him. I didn't like having to deal with all of those negative emotions just for the sake of going to get some crepes, just for the sake of going to get gelato, just for the sake of going to a five-star restaurant. So going through all of these mental negative emotions and negative thoughts and stuff, going through this period of hiding certain things about myself, or making sure he doesn't know that I'm actually like not sure if I want to be with him, making sure that he is convinced that I'm like really interested in being his girlfriend when I'm actually not. So going through all of those emotions and going back and forth with myself 24/7, trying to rehearse, okay, what am I going to say, how am I going to answer him if he asks me about this, all of that time that I spent planning and thinking about how to emotionally manipulate a guy into, I guess, taking me out on more dates or kind of like giving me what I wanted, that time could have been spent strategizing for myself. That time could have been spent social climbing. And you know what? That's exactly what I ended up doing. Once I began my decentering men journey, and by the way, I'm not perfect at this, I'm not an expert at it, but once I began my decentering men journey, let me tell you some of the things that I was able to achieve within that year. So, number one, I was able to complete an entire marathon, able to complete an entire half marathon, join multiple different fitness classes and fitness groups around my city. I ended up making about 15 new girlfriends. Yes, I counted all their numbers in my phone. So I made 15 new girlfriends. I was able to become so consistent and successful with this current YouTube channel to the point where I was able to quit my job as an accountant and work full time for myself. I was able to save up enough money to make a down payment on a cosmetic procedure that I've been wanting for like over a decade. So all of those things I was able to achieve within the last year just by going on a decentering men journey. And like I said, I wasn't even perfect at it, but just by taking back my time and taking back my mental space in my mind and no longer focusing my thoughts on how to get a rich guy, how to get his attention, how to freestyle to get him, how to make myself be seen by him. I have to make sure I don't text him that much, or I make sure that I, don't double text and all this stuff. Like following all of those rules, all of that time that I spent following the religion of dating and dating strategy, I was now able to spend on other hobbies and interests and goals for myself. So I was able to spend more time focusing on my fitness goals, focusing on my financial goals, focusing on making friends and kind of building a community and having fun activities to do on my own, as opposed to, the only way I'm going to go out is if a guy asks me out. But another way that I had to learn to emotionally detach from men was when it comes to having crushes. I noticed that I, in the past, have always had an addiction to having a crush on somebody, because ever since I was like in middle school, there was always some guy that I had a crush on, whether it was some celebrity guy or some guy at the school or, some boy I was talking to on the phone or something. There has always been some sort of crush or some sort of guy in my life, or some pursuit of a relationship, some pursuit of romance, or some sort of like building up, getting a guy's attention or whatever. So you know how you kind of like have that anxiety. Let's say your crush walks into the office or something, and then your heart starts pounding and you start getting a little bit nervous around him. You're hyper aware of how you look. You're wondering if you have lipstick on your teeth. You're wondering if your hair is out of place. All of that mental focus that you are giving to that guy, especially in terms of a crush, because a crush is something that, he may or may not even know that you exist, especially when it comes to celebrity crushes. I haven't had a crush at this point in a very long time, because one thing I realized as I went on my decentering men journey is that crushes are actually not fun in the end, because eventually that fantasy that you had of that man is going to be crushed. Actually, maybe that's why they call it a crush, because you are inevitably going to be emotionally crushed once you realize the reality of who that man is that you have a crush on. So, some of the behaviors that I used to do when I would have crushes is like, let's say it was a guy that I knew or a guy who went to my college or something like that. I would be over here memorizing his class schedule. Like, okay, he walks past the cafeteria around 9:30 a.m., so I know I'm going to see him. Let me try to dress cute. I know he should be heading to class over here soon. So I would try to always walk past this certain guy or whatever, or try to dress up. Hopefully he will like look at me and, oh my god, I'm really happy because he said hi to me. Oh my god, I'm really happy now because he asked me for my number. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited now because he finally asked me on a date. So the thing about crushes that I do not like is that whoever you are crushing on, you are giving him the power to either make you very excited or to make you very sad. Because if your crush asks you on a date, you're going to be super happy. You're going to be super like over the moon. But then if your crush happens to say, oh, you know what? I'm not attracted to you, or I have a girlfriend, or, I'm polyamorous or something crazy, then you're going to be all disappointed. So one of the things that I realized is that having crushes was giving men, it was giving my crush too much power over my emotions, because that man, he now had the power to either make me very, very happy or make me extremely sad and make me feel rejected. And I also realized that having crushes was giving the men control and power over my time. So even when that guy was not around, he was still controlling my thoughts. He was still occupying my thoughts. He was still living in my head rent free. I was over here thinking about his muscles, thinking about his biceps instead of going to the gym for myself and doing my own workouts on my muscles. So, one thing that helped me to emotionally detach from guys in general was realizing how much of a distraction it can actually be. And especially when it comes to a guy that you don't even know, like a celebrity or something, like some guy who doesn't even give a fuck about you. He doesn't even know that you exist. He's never going to talk to you. He's never going to meet you. And you're just over here fiending for him, basically simping for this guy that you're never going to meet. He's out living his best life. He is an actor or NFL player, or, he's leveling up his life because he has decentered women's opinions of him, or he has decentered you. He doesn't even know who you are. You're just a fan in his eyes. And you're over here basically imagining him like coming up to you. You know how you have those fantasies in your mind where it's like you imagine the guy walking off the stage and then, he's at his concert performing. Then he walks off the stage and he picks you out of the crowd and he gives you flowers and then he takes you back to his apartment. Then you live happily ever after. All of that energy that you spent building an entire storyline around this man, you could have been building a storyline about what you want your life to look like. And that is one of the most powerful side effects of decentering men for me. It was the fact that once I stopped focusing on crushes or, whatever guy I'm dating at the time or trying to manage like my dating life and stuff, once I stopped making that my primary focus, I was able to make myself the main character as opposed to, oh, I'm making this guy the main character and I am his love interest. And that's my fantasy, is to be XYZ type of guy's love interest. But another thing that really helped me when it came to emotionally detaching from having crushes is anytime that a crush didn't work out, which was pretty much every single time, because even if the guy does ask you on a date, even if the guy wants to marry you or something, oftentimes whatever fantasy you had of him in the very beginning is nowhere near who he actually is. So like at that time that I had a crush on the guy that was like a CFO and he was a Christian and everything, I would have never imagined, oh, he's actually a porn addict who is extremely misogynistic and he is very like controlling over women and he devalues women. That was not a part of the crush fantasy. So what I've realized is that having the crush is the only fun part. That's the funnest part, because reality is never going to measure up to that fantasy that you have in your mind. And so once you give up the fantasy, it also helps you to take men off the pedestal. It helps you to take that rich guy off the pedestal. It helps you to take white men or whatever your type is. You take biceps off of the pedestal. You take guys with gray and silver fox beards and all that. You take all of that stuff off the pedestal, so it no longer has a power over your emotions. It no longer has the power to sway your emotions. It no longer has the power to influence you. And another thing that I realized is that part of the reason I always had a crush was because I spent a lot of my time in fantasy. So you know how I say that men's way of escapism is like porn and video games. So my fantasies in my own mind were like a form of video games. It was like, I'm like having the sim character of myself in my mind, and I was kind of like making a sim character of my crush in my own mind and making him behave in the way that I wanted to. So that is no different than a video game. It's just a mental video game in your own head. You're making up stories of what this guy will look like, what he will do to you, how he will treat you. And so it's just another form of escapism. That is something that I realized. And the thing that I began to ask myself is, what am I escaping from? So at that time, I was relying on a lot of crushes and escapism because I knew deep down inside that I was not as leveled up as I wanted to be. I didn't have as big of a sense of purpose for myself as I wanted to. I didn't have like very strong passions during those times in my life. And so without having a crush, my life would be boring because I literally had nothing that I had invested in. I was not investing in myself in reality. And so that's why I was constantly in my own head thinking about a guy. So having crushes and kind of being in these emotional fantasies, it's like a high, because the reason you have a crush is because a crush makes you feel good. It makes you feel good when that guy with the money or whatever, when he's looking at you. It makes you feel good fantasizing about XYZ movie star crushing on you. It makes you feel good to imagine yourself as the woman in the romance novel who has this Fabio guy chasing after her. And so one thing I realized was that I was using crushes to fill the emotional voids in my own life. And I was using like these male-centered things to escape from the fact that I was not leveling up in my real life. I wasn't really working on myself like how I knew that I could. I wasn't meeting my own potential, because one thing that I've noticed is that having a strong sense of like purpose, that is going to take all of your time, 24/7, 365, because that's how much that passion or that sense of wanting should consume you. You should feel so excited about whatever you're passionate about, to the point where, yeah, you want to do it all the time, or you have multiple things you're excited about. You've got all these passions, all these hobbies, all these friends, all these exciting things going on in your real life. And so you don't even have time to like fantasize about a guy. Like, you're not even thinking about your crush not texting you back. You're not even thinking about this guy who like he blocked you or he ghosted you, because you're too busy enjoying the reality of your life. But I've noticed that whenever I was not enjoying my real life, I would resort to crushes as my comfort. Like crushing on a guy or fantasizing about a guy, that would make me feel comfort because I finally got to experience that dopamine again. I got to experience that emotional orgasm, for lack of better words. So because I was not experiencing any rewards in real life, like because I wasn't social climbing, wasn't privilege stacking, wasn't leveling up, wasn't investing in my real life, I was, going back to my inner world, which was thinking about a certain guy or imagining myself as a person in the movie, or, living vicariously through all of these characters that I see on TV. But the thing about that is that the more that I did that, as soon as I would get back to reality, like as soon as the movie is over, as soon as the show was over, I had to face my boring life that was in front of me. So I noticed that a lot of times I would work on trying to get a crush's attention or something like that, because it was almost like this fun project to work on. So I didn't have any fun projects to work on for myself. I didn't have fun projects that I was doing to level my own life up, to level up my own fitness, my own health. So instead, I decided to make men my emotional projects. So all of that energy, like pin curling my hair and stuff because I have a meeting with the CFO or whatever and I'm trying to get his attention, that was me making it into a project and occupying myself, occupying my time, and occupying my skills, investing in that project with nothing in return. And so this is why I think that emotionally detaching yourself from men can be very positive, because then you get to invest your emotions within yourself. You get to actually have a return on those emotions when you are spending time achieving your own goals. So like I said, I started experimenting with other goals for myself, like fitness. And then I ended up being good enough at it to where I was able to do entire half marathons and do an entire marathon. Because all of that energy and all of that strong will that I had, instead of focusing it on, using my strong-willed mindset to get a man, I was using my strong-willed mindset to achieve something for myself, to have a positive memory or to do something that I've always wanted to accomplish, whether it's running a marathon, whether it's hiking a mountain, or maybe it's saving up money and traveling to another country that you've always wanted to visit. As soon as I freed up that mental space and as soon as I freed up that additional 16 hours a week that I had previously spent dating or kind of pursuing crushes and stuff, I was able to realize so many positive qualities about myself to the point where it actually made my self-esteem go up. And I was actually able to realize, wait a minute, I have a lot of special qualities within myself. It basically helped me to become the main character of my own life again, instead of hoping that I could be a love interest in a man's life. But I realized that having a crush on a man or having all these different crushes, whether it's celebrities, whatever, it's not actually fun because it always ended in disappointment for me. So the disappointment is that he doesn't even know your name. You'll never meet him. He's a celebrity. You will never know who he actually is. Or the disappointment is, oh, this guy is not who I thought he was. I had kind of projected all of these positive qualities onto him, like, wow, he's this professional, classy man. Wow, he seems like such a gentleman. And then behind closed doors, he's actually not like that. So having crushes, it was kind of like this fantasy that leads to inevitable disappointment. What I've realized is that when you have a crush on someone, you are basically like overly invested. You hardly know that person. Usually having a crush is only possible if you don't actually know the guy or if you don't really know who he is, because you are able to kind of fill in the gaps. Your mind fills in the gaps with fantasy and you begin projecting all of these amazing qualities onto that guy that don't actually exist. So you're basically feeding bullshit into your mind for no reason. It's almost like torturing yourself. It's almost like you're dangling this carrot in front of yourself that you will never get or never meet. So kind of like some celebrity guy that you don't even know, or you imagine him singing that R&B song to you. You imagine him singing about you or something. So you're kind of building your self-esteem, or you're making yourself feel special off of something that is not actually real. And so this is why a lot of those types of women, they tend to become more male-centered, and they also tend to become way more jealous if they see a woman in real life getting attention from a man in real life, especially if that woman is getting attention from a man who looks like her crush or a man who is kind of like her type. This is where the anger and bitterness comes from. It comes from feeding yourself fantasies for so long. It's very similar to the incel community, where they feed themselves pornography for so long, they feed themselves all of these fantasies about women for so long, and then when their real life doesn't match up to what they had in their mind, or it doesn't match up to their expectations and stuff, then they get super mad, super angry, super dejected, and they want to take out that anger on others. I've noticed that a similar phenomenon happens to women who over fantasize about men. So you had all of these romantic fantasies, you watched all of these Disney movies, you read all of these erotica books, you watched all of the teen romantic comedies, you've seen all of these TV shows that talk about romance, you have all these crushes on all these different guys from work or from school or on TV or whatever, and then you are constantly disappointed with the fact that your reality doesn't match up with the fantasies that you had in your mind. So once again, it's one big giant form of cognitive dissonance. The cognitive dissonance is what caused me to begin emotionally detaching from men. So anytime I'm around a guy or whatever, let's say there's some guy and he's like very handsome or something, I don't think like, oh, he would probably be such a gentleman, or, oh, wow, he said hi to me this morning in the office. And so, wow, I wonder if he's going to say hi again tomorrow. That was really sweet of him. He brought me some extra Post-it notes to my desk. Oh, he asked me how I was doing. Wow, he complimented my body. He said that I look really nice. And, I've gotten really in shape and stuff, like training for the marathon. Oh, I wonder what else he thinks about me. So instead of thinking all of these thoughts and putting all of these projections onto a man who is most likely jacking off to other women when you're not around, or literally fucking someone else, instead of putting all of those projections onto him, I learned to become my own dream girl as opposed to hoping that I could be some man's dream girl. Another thing I've realized is that in order to have a crush on someone, you have to have adoration for that person. And I've realized that generally speaking, men are not worth my adoration. They are not worth a high level of admiration from me, because for the most part, most men do not have any particularly special qualities that make me like, oh my gosh, like you are worthy of my adoration and praise. It's like, no, you're not a God. You are not God. I'm not going to adore you in my mind or praise you and worship you in my mind with my thoughts. All you did was do a couple of bicep curls at the gym, and that's great. It looks nice, but I'm not going to be over here like, oh my gosh, I admire him so much. Wow, he is so amazing because he was able to earn this money and because he makes XYZ amount of money per year, I adore him now. No, I'm no longer worshiping, adoring, and praising men in my mind because, like I said, when you put a man on the pedestal, you're actually giving him the power to look down on you, and you're actually having to lower yourself so that you can praise that man. If I'm going to adore anyone, I'm going to make sure that I adore myself first. If I'm going to emotionally attach to anyone, I'm going to make sure that whoever I am emotionally attaching myself to is actually worth it. So, number one, myself, I am worth attaching my own emotions to because I'm the one who lives in my own body. I'm the one who deals with my thoughts, my fears, my insecurities. So instead of trying to emotionally attach to a man who is not emotionally attached to me, I should work on healing my own self or healing my own inner critic, healing my own insecurities. And that's what I want to be emotionally attached to is a sense of confidence. I want to be attached to a sense of taking back my own power, taking back my own control over my life because I can't control a man. I can't control the outcome of this crush. I can't control how he is going to respond to my emotions, but I can control how I behave. I can control what I do with my life and what I do with my time and my resources. So instead of wasting all of my time being kind of like distracted by a man who doesn't give a fuck about me, I am better off focusing on what I really want in life. And also, ever since I started my decentering men journey, it really helped me to realize what my biggest fears were. So, for example, one of the reasons that I was escaping with all of these different crushes and stuff is because I was afraid to make the biggest career move of my life, which was to quit my career in accounting and go for being a full-time content creator. I was scared AF to do that. And in order to avoid my own fears, I was distracting myself with, oh, but I'm dating and I'm doing this and, I have to get ready for this date. I have to get ready to see this guy. And, oh, I was subconsciously kind of distracting myself from my own fears. Like I didn't want to deal with the reality of, no, I am not living my best life right now. I'm living my life in a state of being leveled down. And in order to distract the fact that I'm leveled down, I'm trying to fill that void or make myself feel leveled up through a man's validation. And it's never going to be as fulfilling as actually validating myself by, doing what I want to do with my career. Creating a career for myself. And yes, it'll be hard. And yes, it's going to take a lot of my emotional time and energy. So I don't have the time to think about some guy that doesn't even care about me or some guy that's statistically not going to be in my life after 5 years. So there's already a 50-50 chance that even if I did marry this guy, that we would get a divorce. And the chances are more like 70% of a breakup if you are unmarried. So there's a 70% chance of failure with this guy, even if he is crushing on me, or even if he does, get out of the crowd so that he can like pick me out and he picks me or whatever, there is a higher chance of me being cheated on and all that crap. So instead of focusing my energy on something that is more than likely going to fail, I can start trying to strategize on something where I at least have a better chance of succeeding. Like instead of focusing on a guy, how can I stop working full-time and try to at least go part-time? Even if I can't go full-time with doing content creation, can I at least try to figure out a way to go part-time with working, and then I have 20 hours extra per week to invest in myself as opposed to spending 20 hours a week investing in these guys that are probably not even worth my time? Or investing 20 hours a week into watching these romance movies. So whoever wrote and produced that movie is living her best life. So she's living her best life, getting paid off of me like watching it or whatever. So instead of me just sitting there watching it, can I at least start off by playing the movie in the background while I'm on the treadmill? And maybe I'll watch it on my phone while I'm going on a hike or something, because that makes me feel at least a little bit better. At least I'm still investing in myself while I'm watching the movie. So, even if I'm not strong enough yet to fully get off of these fantasies and stuff, can I at least fantasize about this or watch this while I'm leveling up, while I'm cleaning up my house, or, when I'm driving to see a client for my new business that I'm starting? This is all about taking back your power, by the way, because one thing that I've noticed is that life is full of power games. Everybody's trying to like vie for power. So a lot of times these men, these men know what they're doing. They purposely are in the gym and they are purposely going to get these jobs so that they can have power over you. So he actually won by you admiring and adoring him and putting him on a pedestal. That was his whole purpose of becoming a CFO. That was the purpose of him becoming an accountant. That was the purpose of him going into the STEM field or becoming a high-level doctor, was partially because he wanted your adoration and praise. So instead of you adoring and praising another man, you could be over here strategically finding a way to put yourself in that position. Put yourself in the position of being adored and praised by yourself, or being adored and praised by people you care about, maybe your children, maybe becoming a good role model for them, or breaking barriers for your family or your community, breaking barriers within the African American community, within the Latin community. Like, put yourself in the position to be the one who is receiving the adoration. If you really care that much about being adored or being praised or being validated, I feel like there are so many other more healthy ways that you can receive validation, as opposed to, hopefully this CFO gives me attention for the day. That's another thing that caused me to go on a decentering men journey and emotionally detach from them, was realizing how cheap their attention actually is. Because, for example, the guys that hit on women, those guys that stand outside of the convenience store and they like try to talk to women and stuff. I never took it as a real compliment that those guys are saying that I'm beautiful, because you probably said the same thing to every woman who walked in there today. So I've learned that a man's attention is actually very cheap. Men will be sitting right next to their wives who have dedicated decades of their life to him, and he will still be saying that XYZ actress is hot. So that actress, she doesn't give a fuck about that guy. She doesn't even know he existed. She has decentered that guy. She didn't invest any emotions in him. She didn't invest any time in him, and she is still getting his attention by simply being leveled up herself. So one thing I've noticed is that male attention is very cheap and it's very abundant, and men want women way more than women want men. Men want women so badly, and they simp for women so badly, to the point where all you have to do as a woman is really just focus on yourself. And literally, you could be fat, you could be ugly, you could have a beard, you could be bald headed, all of the things that guys try to make fun of women about. You could have all of those qualities, and trust me, there will still be some guy somewhere that will be giving you attention. Men give women so much attention to the point where we don't even want it. Like, I don't even want guys outside of convenience stores to talk to me. I don't want random unattractive guys knocking on my car window when I'm in the parking lot. That is how abundant male attention actually is. And one thing that I used to have was a scarcity mindset when it came to men's attention. So a part of the reason why I was fantasizing about guys liking me, or I don't know, like the romance movies and all that, a part of what makes us fantasize about that is the scarcity mindset. Feeling like one of the only ways you can feel special is if XYZ Prince Charming gives you the special attention. That's what makes you feel special. But once I realized that there are so many other ways to feel special, it helped me to emotionally detach from men, because I realized that, wait a minute, the fact that I'm out here hiking up a mountain, I actually ended up getting attention. Like, that was getting me attention. Just simply running up a mountain, or achieving things in life, or doing things that are me investing in myself, me quitting my accounting job so that I could do this, me having the boldness and having the courage to go after my dreams. That will get me positive attention. And I realized that the validation that I get from achieving my own dreams, or from like kind of leveling myself up, any validation that I would get from men that are complimenting that part of myself, so kind of the non-physical part of myself, I noticed that I tend to value that a lot more than just some CFO at work is complimenting me for being pretty. So emotionally detaching from men helped me to realize that I was placing too much value on their opinions of me. So once I stopped caring about men's opinions of me, I no longer cared about how bad I look when I'm super sweaty in the gym. I no longer cared about how much I probably stink when I'm like, hiking up a mountain or something and I've been sweating for like 2 hours. I didn't care about that anymore. because I was focused on myself. I was focused on my own goals. I was focused on, okay, am I in a calorie deficit right now? How much muscle have I gained? Okay, I need to make sure that my flexibility is strong. Wow, my energy levels are so much better. Wow, I healed my skin conditions by eating healthy. So I was focused on other things, and it caused me to have an easier time leveling up in general. And like I said, a side effect is you're going to get male attention anyway. So there's no need to like be fiending over it or like kind of desperate for it or fantasizing about it, because you will get male attention by simply just existing. And also, what is the value in male attention? Like, seriously. And I'm not trying to say that women should just be celibate or asexual or like not care at all, but like, seriously, one thing I realized is that as the quote unquote pretty girl, all this attention that you get from men, like all these guys in the office saying, "Oh, you're so beautiful" and whatever, what did that grant me? Like, did my life change? Well, no. Like, did I meet my career goals? No, I technically didn't, because my goal was not even to work in an office in the first place. So it's like, if I am not directly benefiting from that particular type of pretty privilege, then that pretty privilege is not as valuable anyway. So if you are the woman who wants to get promoted in the office, great, then maybe you will value that more. But for me, I always wanted to work for myself, so I didn't really care as much about guys in the office saying that I'm pretty, or some guy at the grocery store thinking I'm beautiful. Did you give me a free item because I'm beautiful? Because if not, then there was no point. Like, who cares? Another thing that caused me to emotionally detach from men and from having crushes is that, let's say you have a crush on a guy that you know, and there's a chance of you being with him. 99% of the guys that you're going to encounter are not even going to be worth your time, even if he is a CFO, even if he is a multimillionaire. Because if your standard is you want him to be faithful, okay, well, he's not going to meet that anyway. So it's like, most of the time, whoever you're crushing on, if you were to actually marry him and stuff, he's not going to even have been worth it. You're going to get with him just so you could end up breaking up with him in the future, or getting your heart broken in the future, or, being disappointed. And like I said, I do believe that there's nuance to this conversation. So I think there's kind of a spectrum for everyone. I think that for some women it is worth it, and then for other women it's not. So you get to decide what part of having a man in my life is worth it. Is it worth it to put in the extra effort to get the attention of a rich man? If so, why? Is it because he's going to give me an allowance? What are the chances of me meeting that guy who's going to give me the allowance and do all this stuff? What are the chances of me meeting him right now? Is this really worth me investing 16 hours a week doing? Is there anything else that I could be doing for 16 hours a week to get that allowance, without having to deal with the man at all, without the man getting the power to be the gatekeeper of money? Because one thing I've noticed for me personally, and this is no shade towards anybody else, but I just noticed that for me personally, I don't like when a man has the power to give me money or to take away money. I don't like when the man gets to be the gatekeeper of my financial independence or my financial success. So one thing I realized was that instead of spending 16 hours a week dating and hoping to get chosen by a wealthy man, I could have spent that 16 hours making YouTube videos and simply getting my exotical tax from YouTube, or making a Patreon for myself, getting money via Patreon, or creating a course, getting money from my courses. You could spend money, or you could spend time being an influencer and doing modeling or getting brand deals and stuff. So I've realized that there are so many other ways that I can actually make money off of my pretty privilege without having to have the man be the gatekeeper, or being able to make money without feeling the pressure to impress a man or trying my hardest not to offend him and stuff like that. And also, one of the easiest ways to be manipulated is when the man knows that you have a crush on him. Men will often use a woman's emotions to exploit her or to kind of manipulate her. Celebrity men do this all the time. Look at Diddy, look at R. Kelly, look at all of these guys who utilize women's crushes on them to get what they want, or to exploit them and to basically harm them. So that's another positive effect of no longer allowing myself to have crushes and fantasize about, oh, I hope so-and-so rapper compliments me. Oh my God, that would mean so much to me. Men will use your emotions to manipulate you into doing what they want. And oftentimes men will even purposely get into the CFO position. He will create his own record label. He will create his own businesses because he knows that if he has women employees, that it's more likely for them to have crushes on him. So a lot of men will strategically place themselves in high positions so that they can utilize those women's crushes and those women's adoration of him to his advantage. We have seen this all throughout history. Kings do this, presidents have done this, army officers, your boss at work, the doctor in the doctor's office. Any man with power, police officers, men with power, they know that women are going to adore them and be more likely to have crushes on them. And a lot of men will use that to get what they want out of you. And they will use that to exploit as many women as possible. So you're over here thinking you're special, when in reality, he sees you as just another person that he's exploiting. I remember even when I was talking to the guy that was the accountant, like the guy that was like the CFO type or whatever, we were not compatible whatsoever. He was extremely religious, extremely misogynistic, wanted women to dress a certain way. He had all of these different views that I clearly did not agree with. And I remember asking at one point, why do you still want to have lunch with me or hang out with me? And then he was like, yeah, I've noticed that I have a need to want to be seen with the girl that is pretty. I just want to be seen with the woman that is the pretty girl in the office and stuff, and I know I shouldn't be thinking like that. So I give him props for his honesty, but yes, he basically admitted to my face that he was using me to increase his status in the eyes of other men or in the eyes of other women in the office. So a lot of men will utilize your crush on them, and even if the guy has a crush on you as well, he still has a crush on you sometimes for the wrong reasons. He has a crush on you because you increase his status. And I've noticed that the same thing happens for women though. Why do we have a crush on the rich guy? Why do we have a crush on the famous guy? Why do we have a crush on the guy with all the muscles? Because those guys represent status. So we don't actually have a crush on his character or him as a person. We have a crush on his status. So all you have to do is seek that same status for yourself, and boom, you've satisfied that desire. So you no longer need the middleman. You no longer need to deal with his bullshit in order to achieve what you actually had a crush on, which was the status or the wealth. You can basically attain those things for yourself, and then you have all the power. You are the one that gets to, enjoy those things, and nobody can take it away from you because you got it yourself. You got that money yourself, so nobody can take it away from you. You bought that house yourself. Nobody can kick you out of it. You earn that body yourself in the gym, or you paid for that body yourself with your own money, so nobody can dangle that in front of you. And also, crushes are a form of admiration. So oftentimes the guy that you have a crush on, you have a crush on him because he has qualities within himself that you wish you had. So you have a crush on the guy who's buff because you don't have the discipline to work out yourself and to become your best, most fit version of yourself. So you actually have a crush on his ability to be disciplined in the gym. So it's not actually him that you like. It's his qualities. It's his discipline that you like. You don't have the ability to make XYZ millions of dollars. And so you have a crush on the guy who does have the millions because you actually are attracted to the millions. You're not attracted to him personally. You're just attracted to the money. So you actually would be better off finding a way to attain those things for yourself as opposed to having to deal with his exploitation in order to get access to that money, or in order to get access to his biceps hugging on you or whatever. You're dealing with him nagging you or calling you names or abusing you just so you can have access to those things. And I'm here to tell you that you can still attain those things without the guy, or without giving the guy the power, and without giving the guy the ability to gatekeep those things away from you. Because remember, if you are crushing on the guy that's a millionaire because he has the millions, he can dangle those millions in front of you and say, oh, well, I need my woman to do XYZ if she wants to have access to my money. Another problem that I used to have when I was more emotionally attached to men was I would literally lose sleep because I was thinking about a man. I would be spending my free time trying to figure him out. Why did he cheat? Why did he do this? Why did he not text back? Why did he say that? What did he actually mean? I would be spending all of my time trying to decode these text messages that he sent or decode his behavior. I was spending my time analyzing a guy's body language, or it would be the opposite. I'm spending my time staying up late at night because I'm thinking about him, staying up late at night, losing sleep because I'm texting him, because we're talking on the phone, because we're FaceTiming. So I was literally losing my beauty sleep and losing a part of my body's healing process, because sleep literally helps your body to heal. It helps It helps to make your brain function properly. So I was sabotaging my bodily functions and my brain operating properly so that I could engage with this guy that I was emotionally attached to. And one thing that I've learned is that it's always a waste of time trying to figure somebody else out. I need to be spending that time trying to figure myself out, because I used to be the type of person where, like, let's say somebody says something at work, I would actually think about it outside of work. Like, hey, what did my boss mean when she said that comment? Is she trying to fire me, or does she not like me? What did they mean when they were saying XYZ? One thing I've learned is that I need to stop wasting my time trying to figure other people out. I need to figure myself out. Why am I in this fucking job in the first place? Instead of trying to figure out whether or not my boss likes me, why the fuck did I allow this bitch to be my boss? Why did I get myself into this position in life? Is this even what I want to do with the rest of my life? Why don't I have the money to get out of this job? Where did I fuck up in terms of my own finances to the point where I feel trapped enough to where I have to be somebody else's bitch for the next 30 years? Why did I get in this situation? So instead of trying to figure out somebody else, and I'll never be able to figure them out because I don't know their thoughts, I need to figure out my own self. Why did I think that I was not good enough to be a content creator? Why was I so insecure about talking about decentering men? Why was I not putting myself out there and actually telling my story? Why didn't I do that? That's what I need to figure out, instead of wasting my time trying to figure out a man, trying to figure out my bosses at work, trying to figure out what my friends think of me. Are my friends fake? Why am I even hanging out with these bitches if I'm not having fun? Why am I doing that? Why am I afraid of being alone? Why am I afraid of not having friends? Why can't I make new friends? Why am I afraid of not hanging around women who I have to question whether or not they're actually there for me? Why do I put myself in such emotionally torturing situations? Why do I allow myself to be emotionally tormented by others? That's what I need to be figuring out, instead of trying to decode a man's tone of voice, or trying to decode like his facial expressions. And oh, I saw that when Sally walked by, he looked over to the side and he winked one eye. Like, what does that mean? Instead of figuring out a man or figuring out what he means, I need to figure out what I want for myself. I need to figure out what brings meaning to my own life. I need to figure out my own passions. Because one thing that I really learned, and it's been such a beautiful thing to learn, is that I am such a multi-dimensional human being. Like, that's what a lot of people don't realize about themselves. You are such a multi-dimensional human being to the point where you may think that you know yourself, but you actually don't. You will learn so many new things about yourself depending on the experiences you give yourself, depending on the situations you put yourself in. You will learn new things about yourself. And also, it takes a lot of time to learn how to kind of hack your own brain, to learn how to train yourself to have discipline to do certain things. You will begin to learn what makes you feel confident, what makes you feel insecure, what your triggers are, how to remove the triggers. You will begin to learn your biggest strengths by decentering other people. One thing that I did not know about myself before my decentering men journey, I didn't know that I have a very high risk tolerance and that I am very good at sink or swim situations. I would have never known that if I did not go on a decentering men journey, because decentering men, it helped me to finally build up the courage to quit my job and to not have a plan yet, and to just figure it out as I was going along. So it was actually a new discovery that I made about myself, that, wow, I'm actually very good at starting over, because this is like the fifth or sixth or seventh time that I've started over and like switched careers and had to think on my feet. And I didn't have a whole bunch of money stacked up. You know, those people where they have to save up a bunch of money for like 2 years before they can quit a job. I'm not that type of person, because I get too triggered allowing other people to have power and control over my financial future. So I'm the type of person where I'd rather quit with nothing. And I trust myself enough to know that I have the smarts, I have the resources, and I have the talent to make back my money as soon as possible. I will start selling stuff. I will sell everything I own if I ever needed to. I will sell furniture, sell shoes, sell makeup and stuff. I could, work temp jobs or do whatever I needed to do to make the money. But I would not have known how resourceful I am or how smart I actually am if I had not gone on a decentering men journey, because so many of my thoughts were dedicated to trying to decode other people, trying to decode this man, trying to figure out how much he actually likes me, and is he ready for marriage? Is he ready for a relationship? What does he think about the way that I dress? What does he think about my makeup? What does he think about my weaves? Oh, I saw that he really liked it. He made a special face when I had highlights. So maybe he really likes me with highlights. Oh, he made another face when I was wearing red lipstick. So he must like when I wear red lipstick. Instead of thinking about that stuff, I was able to start making moves in my life and taking risks and getting a bigger reward than just, the man liking me or whatever. Because one thing I learned is that doing my passions and taking my own power back over my own career and financial future, that was actually more rewarding than any relationship has ever been. I'm just being honest. Like knowing that my confidence is unshakable, that is a very powerful, very freeing feeling because I no longer have a fear of, oh, what if this guy thinks that my outfit is ugly? Or, what if he prefers a different type of woman than myself? Then I'm going to be sad. I no longer fear my own emotions. One thing that I realized is that I had a bigger fear of rejection before when I was more male-centered because if you center men, then they have the power to reject you. And obviously rejection makes your self-esteem go down. It makes you feel bad about yourself and all that. So once I decentered them, they no longer had the power to make me feel rejected. And I didn't know that half of my insecurities were coming from a fear of rejection. Another thing that I didn't realize was that part of why I wanted marriage so badly was because I wanted the status that came along with it. And so once I realized that I have a desire for status, instead of shaming myself for that desire, I learned to attain status on my own. So I attained the status of working for myself. I attained the status of having a fit body. So I found other ways to achieve status because I was able to finally realize that about myself. Like, oh, okay, I enjoy a sense of status in society. I don't have to be a dictator or anything like that. I'm not saying status like I'm trying to be Hitler or something, but just a general form of status and achievement. I noticed that that's actually very important to me. And so marriage was just a box that I was trying to check off because I viewed marriage as an achievement. And so the way that I fulfilled that desire for achievement was I started achieving other things, like achieving my fitness goals, achieving my traveling goals, achieving new skills, like learning how to speak a different language and be good at it, or, reading a certain number of books in 1 year. Those things increased my self-esteem. And I've noticed that a lot of people will talk to decentering men content creators and they'll be like, oh, well, who hurt you? And one thing that I've realized is that the more I think about a man, the more I actually begin to hurt myself. So it's not about the man. It's not always the man who's actually hurting me. Most of the time it's been me hurting myself by investing too much time in him, taking time away from the things that are important to me, taking time away from my personal goals, not leveling myself up, allowing this guy to crush my self-esteem. So it's like if he's having a bad day, I'm having a bad day. If he is in a bad mood, now I'm going to be in a bad mood. So I've noticed that it's often me hurting myself when I am centering a man or when I am constantly engaging in these crushes and, trying to like jump through hoops in hopes of getting noticed by a particular man, like basically simping over a man. That actually hurts myself because I'm taking time away from leveling myself up and being in that position. I'm taking myself off of the pedestal so that I can put him on the pedestal. That is actually me hurting myself because that man did not ask me to put him on a pedestal. He didn't tell me, hey, put me on a pedestal because I'm a millionaire. That was me making the conscious choice within myself to put men on pedestals who make millions of dollars, to put men on pedestals who are tall, who have muscles, to put men on pedestals who have a nice tan or something like that. So emotionally detaching from men, for me, it's not about some man hurt me and that's why I'm doing it. No, it was I got tired of hurting myself so much. And that's why I'm doing it. It's because I actively had to hurt myself in order to love someone else. And I'm tired of doing that. I'm no longer going to sacrifice my own needs, sacrifice my own desires, and sacrifice my emotional fulfillment in hopes that a man will return it. Because 100% of the time, a man has not been able to reciprocate on the same level that I have given. And that's because it's impossible. It's impossible for a man to actually know how much time, energy, and effort you put into him when it comes to your thoughts, because he doesn't know your thoughts. He doesn't live in your mind. He doesn't know what you're thinking. So that's what helped me to realize that there's no point in thinking about him. How about when you're right in front of me, then I can think about you when you're talking to me or whatever. But if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. I'm not going to waste my thoughts and waste my intelligence on strategizing to get a man to notice me. I can use that same intelligence on strategizing how to make more money, strategizing on how to get my health in check, how to cure whatever chronic illnesses I may have been struggling with, or, how to get my diet healthy, how to build my muscles back up. There are some women out here who are literally overweight, your muscles aren't working properly, your sleep schedule is off, you're emotionally traumatized and stuff. And instead of prioritizing finding healing for yourself, you're literally prioritizing, hopefully this man will look at me today in the office. Hopefully he will say hi to me. Oh my God, Tyrone just texted me. Woo woo. Meanwhile, Tyrone just got done jacking off to an OnlyFans girl and he gave her money, but then you're over here cheering over a text message. Another thing that helped me when it came to emotionally detaching from men is that it helped me to have more emotional discipline. That's the best way I can describe it. So, having emotional discipline is like, not only can I detach from men, but I also can detach from not meeting my fitness goals this month, or, maybe I fell off on my diet for a day or two. So, these skills that I'm learning, the emotional skill of being able to detach, that is a transferable skill that I can use in other areas, and it can actually help me to level up in all of those areas as well. So it's like a positive domino effect. And another thing I've noticed is that the bar is so low for having a crush. All a guy has to do is be attractive and be an R&B singer for you to have a crush on him. I'm not giving men any extra attention. I'm not giving them any extra energy. I am not dedicating or devoting any of my time thinking about them when they have not invested in me. So it's like, if all it takes is for a man to be an NFL player, for you to have a crush on him, or if all it takes is for him to say one or two sentences to you that are nice at work for you to start catching feelings, that's crazy to me at this point. And so I'm no longer doing that. I think that it's one thing to think a guy looks attractive or something, but then you just move on. So I feel like decentering men is a spectrum. So you can enjoy a man from a distance. So if he compliments you at work, you can take the compliment and drink it up or whatever, and then you move on with your life. Then you go on about your day. You don't continue thinking about him, because I've noticed that for a lot of women, a guy will compliment him and then she will go on thinking about him after he's gone. She will go on imagining, oh, he seems like he would be a good husband. What would his last name sound like on mine? Wow, our kids would be so cute. Oh my gosh, I wonder what he's doing this weekend. Does he have a girlfriend? Why did he come up and talk to me? I wonder if he's single. So women will start going on this whole entire rant in their heads because a guy said one or two nice sentences to her. And I'm no longer doing that. And ever since I have started emotionally detaching from guys in general, it has freed me up so much. It has caused my self-esteem to become higher. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comments section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.